Lots of updates and stories to get through today involving summer targets, club news, and Todd Boehly's big interview with Bloomberg. So I hope you guys enjoy. Hit that like button, all that good stuff, and let's tackle today's reports. I want to get these Jadon Sancho updates out the way first because we finally learned the exact figure it will take for us to break away from this obligation to buy deal. And as reported by Ornstein, that penalty fee is only £5 million. Now, that is still a little bit expensive. It's not too bad. And it gives us a pretty affordable option to back out of this deal. The question, though, remains, are we definitely set to do that? And now, if you're Jadon Sancho, I feel like this international break hasn't been that great for you. It's never nice to read about your future so publicly in the media, especially as you probably are feeling a bit settled here, want to remain here, and learning that you could be on the move again. It's not best for your mentals, but the question is, are we definitely set to end this deal? And at the moment we aren't. In my opinion, this is a touch and go situation. I definitely feel like who we can sign in the market will really determine overall if we decide to cancel this Sancho deal. It doesn't surprise me that when we first engineered this loan move, we naturally put in these protective type of fees in place in case we change our mind. Obviously, you're going to do something like that, right? But in the market, we have to see what type of players we can target down that left wing. Obviously, we are still unsure about the future surrounding Madrid. Rumors have suggested that Sevilla are showing interest, but you're showing interest in the player where no one knows how long he could be out for with his ban. It doesn't really make any sense. So the question then pivots and it becomes, would you even get rid of a Jadon Sancho realistically? Maybe it makes sense to potentially keep Jadon Sancho as that fifth winger who can play down either flank, who's had a year now to understand Maresca's needs, who's more settled with this team at the moment. And in terms of numbers, if you have to pay this 20 million to buy him, that's not necessarily crazy money, right? The wages you're signing him for are way less than that original contract deal that he sealed with Manchester United. And technically, stats-wise on paper, he's got 4 assists this season. He's joint highest for our wingers with the most assists, alongside Pedro Neto. Now, 4 assists isn't necessarily amazing, right? But at the same time, we aren't the most clinical team in terms of scoring from these chances and these opportunities. But the food for thought I want to leave you guys with, because let's have a conversation around this. Do you think maybe our wingers all kind of struggle a little bit based on the fact that, as we've seen so many times in so many games, they find themselves in positions on the field where they're constantly getting ganged up on 2v1. And the second thing is, they're very high and they're very wide. There isn't much license for them to move inside, to drift inside, to rotate or anything like that. They're kind of stationed in their positions in this positional setup, high and wide. And that kind of reduces the possibilities of players like this. Technically, Sancho brings a lot of reliability in possession in terms of keeping the ball down that side. Whereas other options who played down the left-hand side were more prone to losing possession, which left us getting counted down that side time and time again. Sancho's dribbling stats are still really high, still really effective. Passes into the penalty box are really high. And you could argue that with a player like Sancho, should he not be given another season to potentially settle into the squad even more and showcase what he's really about? Food for thought, but in my opinion, the future for all our wingers, not just Sancho, but your Netos, your Nonis, Yastavals next season, etc., etc. That will be dependent on how Maresca tweaks the system a little bit to afford a bit more freedom and flexibility for our wingers. Let's not forget that Sancho was signed down the left-hand side to be the more supportive player in our attack. He's about the pre-assist, the assist, releasing runners in behind, finding teammates inside the box. He wasn't necessarily signed to be the goal-scoring presence, right? Even though it's an area in this game you would like to see him show a bit more ambition in. But on paper, you're looking at maybe a new right winger on the left side with Neto, Noni and Estevado on the right-hand side, and a Jadon Sancho that can play either on the left or either on the right-hand side. That's not bad options to have if that's going to be your 5 wingers for next season. So how do you feel about this? Is there more to come from Sancho, or are you guys paying this penalty fee right now and reinvesting that money? Let us know below. And for the next story, we discuss the interesting news surrounding Dean Huijsen. He will be one of the most in-demand popular players this summer, as clubs such as Bayern like him. Liverpool have made initial contact, but us and Real Madrid are the two big favourites for this wonder kid signature. This is pretty fair and pretty affordable for serious clubs that want this guy. Now, Juventus are set to earn some money from his resale because they did engineer resale clauses in the deal that sold him to Bournemouth. But now we have to discuss the reports coming from Marca, as they suggest that recently, when Huijsen was playing against Holland, we had scouts in attendance to follow this kid because he is a player that was really high up in our estimations, really high up in our shortlist, a player that we absolutely love for very good reason. And obviously, I'm sure you guys saw the brilliant lofted pass over the top that Huijsen played to find Yamal, who scored that incredible winner. Now, it's interesting that scouts were in attendance because Huijsen came on as a sub in that game when Kubrasi got injured. And he even got a place in the Spanish national team squad because Inigo Martinez of Barcelona had to get omitted due to a last-minute injury. So the stars are really aligning for this kid. Still, Real Madrid's involvement is very tricky, and if you guys had to ask me, listen, I gotta be honest with my thoughts. There's no way that I don't see Huijsen picking us over Real Madrid. I think if Madrid want him and they have the money, I think Huijsen goes there. I think long term we'll get a lot of game time playing with some amazing players, and his distribution over the top, especially now that they have Alexander-Arnold going there. The fun that Mbappe and Vinny and the rest of these guys, Bellingham, are gonna have with the distribution from deep is just totally unfair. Totally unfair to the rest of the clubs in Europe. Unless Madrid somehow can't afford him, or I don't even know what would have to happen. This is the only way that I see us having a chance. Now, it's interesting because Romano reveals that we have people who are close to Huijsen. We have a very good relationship with them. That possibly gives us an opening. Regardless, though, if you are committing this type of money for another wonder kid team like this, he is not coming here to be a competition centre-back. He is coming here with the intention to be a first-team guy, and his minutes will be protected. With us, at Real Madrid, it's a bit of a different story. They have world-class players there. These guys understand that. But we are not on Madrid's level. We are the level below Real Madrid. So what we have to offer has to be greater and has to be more enticing. Now, let's discuss some of the conversations around a potential move for Huijsen. Listen, when I first saw this kid on loan at Roma, I was like, who the hell is he? He scored that incredible goal outside the box, carrying it from deep. I've been onto this guy ever since. I thought he'd be good for Bournemouth. He's completely blown my expectations away, and I think this guy is one of the next great defenders of his generation. At the same time, you guys, I think to myself, raw, like the pressure we are putting ourselves under. We're signing all these diamonds in the rough. And if we don't make them achieve their potential here, not only have we wasted our money, not only have we ruined these kids' potential, but we're making our future very difficult because we've completely bought into this long-term project at the football club. This is the scary thing. On one hand, you guys are thinking to yourself, Nini, do we not have Anselmino? Do we not have Achimpong? Good wonder kids as well, who we have high expectations on. How can we fit all three together at the same time alongside your Corwalls and Co? Now listen, I think we can all accept we're going to see a reshuffle in defence, the favourites being Disasi, Badia and Jalaba set to leave us. But to go for more younger players, is that what we need right now when we already have quite a lot of youth already? Ideally, a lot of us want to see an experienced guy signed. But equally, I have to repeat this point again. You know, are we not putting ourselves under too much pressure now? Is this a case of too much of a good thing? I accept that we can't have like 11 of the best guys in their generation, of course, playing for our team at one point. There isn't enough minutes to distribute. We already have a lot of players who are still about to pre-peak. They haven't even hit their peaks just yet. They will command most of the minutes. I mean, you guys, let me know how this can work. You know, Fofana, Corwall, they still are like 3 years away from showcasing what they're really, really about. We got fullbacks, we got midfield players. Do we need like another top talented youth defender disrupting what we already have? Is this how the game works? Or is this like a misuse of the money? Is it time for us to be a bit more responsible in the market right now and help what we have right now, instead of like forever continuing to build for a future that isn't necessarily set in stone. So again, food for thought. Where's your opinions on this? Let us know below. And for the final story, my friends, we discuss Todd Boehly and his big Bloomberg interview. Now, my friends, we discuss the big interview between Bloomberg and Todd Boehly as we learn more insights behind the direction of our football club at the moment. Now, the woman conducting the interviews was really direct, really straightforward, really good questions. Immediately, she asked, what is the true story behind the tension between the ownership struggle at the moment? And Boehly was essentially like, listen, the media kind of sensationalizes a little bit, but it's not as realistic. And Boehly then went on to state that, listen, the board's overall is aligned on this current vision for our football club. As he says, we're a young team with long contracts. All of this can only work if everyone is aligned to the core vision. Look past the sensationalism and you see there's a focus on core stability of young players over time. And I guess it makes a bit of sense because let's say Palmer's or Enzo's decided, you know what, I'm tired of losing here. I need to bounce right now. We are protected by the contract length, which means that any interested party will have to splash a crap ton of money to buy them off our books, which can be reinvested and all that type of stuff. So on one hand, I can understand what Boehly is saying. Moving on, execution was then discussed. Boehly said at the moment we are executing a plan that will have us where we belong. He says we're fourth right now, and the interviewer hits back saying, but you guys, you're not first in the table right now. Boehly reiterated this long-term plan yet again, and then focus talks on our stadium opportunities. That's like one of the key things that a lot of us don't have any clarity on right now, and things are kind of up in the air. Boehly reveals that the stadium plans still have to be fleshed out, and he says that this is where we as an ownership align or go in our different ways. It was pretty cryptic, but we know that the stadium is the big selling point behind why these guys even won the ownership race to begin with. But what does this possibly mean? Could this mean a proper departure between Boehly and Iqbali? If that was the case, either party has to buy out the other party. But maybe one of the parties decides, you know what, I'm happy to sell out right now because I just don't see any long-term growth with this current vision for the stadium plans. So a little worrying, I guess. But Boehly goes on to say that, listen, we have like another 16 to 20 years to figure this out right now. At the moment, we have to decide, do we continue to redevelop Stamford Bridge or do we redevelop elsewhere in London? Now, both solutions aren't as simple. You know, London is one of the most expensive cities in the world to develop in. It's got ridiculous bureaucratic laws you have to get through. There's tons of competition for the small pieces of land that you can develop on. It's not easy. It is not easy at all. I think the board's mistake was maybe selling a vision that was just a bit too hopeful at the start. At this point in time, if you guys want my opinion on the stadium plans, I'm pretty impartial. Ideally, if there was a situation where we could redevelop Stamford Bridge, I would like that. But I understand that that's going to cost a crap ton of money. And that limits the potential of the stadium capacity, which would kind of defeat the point of everything, right? On the other hand, if it meant that we had to relocate somewhere else around the general geography of Stamford Bridge, I am more than happy with that. I understand that the football club will live on past the 120 years. There is going to be another 120 years of Chelsea, another 200 years, 500. Who knows what the future holds? But these football clubs aren't going anywhere anytime soon. And many clubs over their history have had relocations in their stadiums. So I'm not really opposed to this and I'm not fearful of this. All I want is the best possible deal that prioritizes long-term sustainability, health, and also access for the fans. Boehly continued to state that they're getting inspiration from stadium structure plans in like Africa, Asia, etc., etc. You know, stadium development plans and sporting infrastructure are a key strategy for Clear Lake at the moment. But again, these complexities in terms of developing a stadium in London, we have to find out what the overall solution is going to be. But to end with things though, Boehly was asked whether the value of Chelsea Football Club has risen since they've taken over. And this is where things get even more cryptic. Boehly was asked, are we less now as we aren't securing seal and we aren't winning? And Boehly said, The trend in general is our friend, and that trend is the opportunities to grow across the world. He said, unlike American sports, we have more international fans we can tap into. Hence why we've seen this aggressive strategy in terms of pursuing top South American talent, because a key strategy for Clear Lake is to boost our audience and fan base in that region. Let's see if it works out, but we've signed some of the most exciting South American prospects. Let's hope they can become key central figures at our football club. Boehly also mentioned that the competitive nature of the Premier League is a negative, but also an overwhelming positive because it's the most popular league in the world. But the interviewer was trying to cut through all of this. And she asked him again, but is the value higher? And this is where Boehly was being abstract, because he said yes, but he said this in a very abstract type of context. And for me, the context I got from his answer was essentially, we're probably hit with a loss short term, obviously, because we aren't winning. There's no success, there's no sponsors, there's no way the value is more than the 4.25 billion that they originally invested. Let's not lie to ourselves. But I think Boehly is trying to say that, again, if everything works out, the potential's there for the value to be even higher. And obviously, these guys are investors. You know, investors at this level, at this scale, they're not thinking about the next flipping 1 to 5 years. They're thinking in terms of decades. That's how they get their money back. They want that continued return on their investment, yeah? That's the levels of this stuff. That was the main stuff from Chelsea. There was other interesting parts, such as maybe Boehly, who's also one of the CEOs of another investment company in Eldridge, how they could potentially look to invest into other sports like cricket in India, for example. He spoke about some of the other companies he's invested in very excitedly, facial recognition companies, his involvement in Metropolis, which is like the largest parking lot operator in America with like over 2 million parking spots. All pretty dystopian stuff. But yeah, that was pretty much that from Todd Boehly today with Bloomberg. If our owners don't have an aligned vision for what we're going to do with the stadium plans, either one of them could leave. That is the big news here. That is the big news here. So let's see what happens. Let's see what plays out. Share your thoughts and opinions. So that's it, my friends. That's me for today. Share your thoughts and opinions on today's reports. I'll see you guys again with some more videos. Have a good day. Cool.